Hello and welcome to another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Hughes.
Yes, that's right. Hughes is back for one last episode before Chris Mann returns.
Until the real deal is back.
And today we're going to be talking about 1985's Tomboy.
It's not just a man's world anymore.
You said that way too sexual.
So flat.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Dad, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
We're setting knockers.
Spooky ain't got no real poetry. Brenda, we're gonna play a little game, baby.
I just love a funny game. Get a little girl all hot and horny.
You could have looked decent once in a while. And maybe Daddy would have had to kill himself because he couldn't get it up anymore.
What a shame.
Come on, just step on the gas before we get creepy. And
So Hughes, I gave you another choice of movie, sort of.
There was no choice.
You said to me, I want to do a Crown film. And we are back on the Crown International bandwagon. You know, I think it's almost been over 10 episodes since we've covered a Crown film.
I was really jealous of all the Crown ones you've already done.
So I gave you a triumphant return to Crown. This is probably one of my favorite Crown movies. Later Crown film, 1985, mostly known for the 70s, later 70s stuff, but a real classic, I think. And you told me before we started recording that you were upset because you had two enjoyable movies in a row.
Yeah, I've had two enjoyable movies. I'm like, okay, give me a Crown. Give me just a terrible whatever movie. And you gave me quality.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. So let's get into the cast and crew here.
Let's do this.
Tomboy was directed by Herb Fried. He was a rabbi, a dancer, a folk singer, and a teacher prior to becoming a film director. He directed over 200 film commercials prior to directing his first movie. So real weird background for him. 10 directing credits total and 8 writing credits. Started in 1972 with a movie called AWOL. Wrote and directed that. 1977, Haunts. Wrote and directed. 1980, Beyond Evil. Wrote and directed. 1981, Graduation Day. Wrote and directed. 1985, Tomboy. Didn't write it. His first movie he didn't write, which I thought was weird. 1987, Survival Game. He wrote and directed that, and it stars Mike Norris, Chuck Norris's brother. 1986, Subterfuge. Only directed that one. 1999, Dead Punks. Wrote and directed. 1999, Paradise Lost. Wrote and directed that one. It stars William Forsythe. You know who he is?
No.
If you saw his picture, you would know him. He plays bad guy in a lot of movies. He's great. And last credit, 2000, Child 2 Man, like with the number 2 in it, like Jungle 2 Jungle, one of my favorites. I watched it the other week, by the way. It was on TV, and
Jungle to Jungle?
Yeah, I just started watching it. And my wife was like,
you loved that movie.
It's so bad. It is so bad. My wife was wondering like why I was watching it, and then she soon got hooked. We watched that part when he kills Martin Short's fish and like barbecues him in the backyard. Also there's the part where Tim Allen like tries his blowgun out for some reason, and he like knocks the cat out.
There were so many blowgun gags, because didn't he suck it in once and then fall over?
Oh, nothing like a good Tim Allen movie from the 90s.
Yeah, Tim Allen and Blow.
So Child 2 Man wrote and directed that. Last credit, couldn't find anything else about him. Kenan just disappeared in 2000. Don't know if he's alive, what he's doing, but it's the last thing he directed. Ben Zelig, the writer, only credit. Now here's where we get interesting. Marilyn Jacobs Tenser, the producer of this movie. She's the daughter of Newton P. Jacobs, who produced some other Crown films we know. Coach, Malibu Beach, and Van Nuys Boulevard. He also produced Galaxina and The Hearse. Newton P. Jacobs is the reason this podcast exists. He is the guy who started Crown International. And his daughter went on to produce most of their good like in-house production movies. 17 producing credits. 1973, she started with Super Chick as the executive producer.
I love Super Chick.
1974, Policewoman, executive producer, which was another Crown movie I thought of giving you. I think you would have hated that one much more than this one. It's a good movie, though. 1976, The Pom Pom Girls, executive producer on that. 1977, The Van, executive producer on that. 1978, this is when she started producing Malibu Beach. 1979, Van Nuys Boulevard. 1980, Galaxina. 1982, The Beach Girls. 1983, My Tutor. 1984, Weekend Pass. 1984, Tomboy. 1986, My Chauffeur, a movie we will probably cover at some point.
You know, you're covering Weekend Pass too.
Oh, well, of course. We're probably also going to cover every movie this lady's produced. 1987, Hunk. Not one of my favorite Crown movies. That's when it started to go a little downhill. 1989, executive producer on My Mom's a Werewolf. 1991, produced this movie called Lena's Holiday, which I own, which is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. It's about like I don't even know where the hell she's from. Guess from the name, Lena. Like
Israel?
German or something, right?
Israel.
It's about this like foreign girl who comes to LA on vacation with a camera and like somehow like thinks she's going to stay at this cool place in Hollywood, but she goes to real Hollywood, which if anybody here listening to this has ever been to Hollywood, and I've discussed this at length in the Thrashing episode, do not go there as a tourist. It's not a nice city.
Oh, the Walk of Stars is so good.
Well, don't even get me started again on fucking Hollywood Boulevard. But she stays in like a hooker hotel, and like some cab driver like steals her money. But then she meets some rich guy and like takes pictures. Oh no, she's from East Berlin. That's the whole joke. Is like it's after the Berlin Wall fell that she comes to America and she's like taking pictures of food. Like, because she's, like, fascinated by it. Like, wow, what's a banana?
It's a Cold War timeless classic.
We're going to cover that movie at some point. It's really odd. 2003, last movie she was involved with, executive producer, Malibu Spring Break. She's apparently stopped working, and I can't find any more information about her, but boy, would I like to track her down and interview her one day. She is the genius behind all these Crown movies. All my favorite Crown movies. She's either produced or executive produced. The fucking Van.
You have something to do.
So let's get into the cast. Betsy Russell. And okay, she plays Tommy, but that's not how she's credited. Her name is Thomasina Tomboy Boyd in the movie. Did you know that?
No, I had no...
Everybody just calls her Tommy. There's
no, like, girl name ever associated with her. Even when they call it out, and she didn't go like, oh, my name's Thomasina.
Actually, this is not her best-known role. Her best-known role is Jill Tuck, the ex-wife of the Jigsaw Killer in the Saw film series. She has 32 credits to her name. She started with 1983 in a movie called Private School with Matthew Modine and Phoebe Cates. She went on to...
That's Phoebe Cates?
Okay, Phoebe
Cates.
She's
kind of famous.
I heard it as Cates.
I've always heard it as Cates.
All right, well, Phoebe Cates. If either one of us is wrong, tweet at us and use the hashtag #KateShit. 1985, she was starred in a movie called Avenging Angel, which it looks really good by the cover. 1985, Tomboy. 1985, Out of Control. 3 movies in 1 year. Wow. 1988, a movie called Cheerleader Camp. She worked through the 90s, but then eventually 2006 through 2010 saw 3, 4, 5, 6, and the final chapter. And she's still working.
You liked all those movies, huh?
No, Chris Mann did. He made me go see Saw 3D like in the theater on opening night. Oh boy.
I remember we went and saw Saw 1. It ended with the whole game over and closed. And I'm like, I'm never watching this movie again. I'm never watching another one. And I haven't ever.
Okay, let me tell you the best thing. I think it was Saw Final Chapter, one that Chris made me see. In one of them, there's like this group meeting for all the people that have been affected by the Jigsaw Killer, like a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And they're having this meeting, and then all of a sudden, out of the shadows, some man walks in with a cane and a limp, and somebody says something, and he goes, that sounds a little perverse. And he like shakes his cane. And that man is Cary Elwes from Saw 1. When I saw that in the theater, Chris and I started just like bending over laughing in our seats in a crowded theater on opening night.
I don't know, like that. I think that series was made for people that appreciate horror films more than trying to scare your girlfriend when like other horror films are made.
I liked, I think it was number 2 that Glenn Plummer was in, who's one of my favorite characters in Showgirls.
Oh, and Speed.
Oh, God, and Speed 2. Hey, give credit where credit's due.
Speed and Speed 2.
If you've ever seen Speed or Speed 2, and you know that one part when Keanu Reeves steals that black guy's car, that's Glenn Plummer from Showgirls. He has a much larger role. But I always thought it was funny is in Speed, he goes, I just bought this car last week. And he takes the car. And then in Speed 2, of all people to have a cameo is Glenn Plummer.
On a boat with a girl again.
Okay, so he's
just bought that boat.
Were you with me when I spent $26 to buy Speed 2 on DVD?
We bought so many DVDs.
I couldn't find it anywhere, and I like really wanted to see it. And don't ask me why, but this was before you could get anything streaming. So the only place I could find it was Tower Records, and it was full MSRP, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm buying it. Anyways, Glenn Plummer's in that movie riding on a boat, and like what, Jason Patrick has to commandeer it? Oh yeah, to go chase after Willem Dafoe.
Wait, no, I thought I got run over.
No, this is after the cruise ship destroys that whole town, you know, and like hundreds of people die. And then Willem Dafoe like gets away with Sandra Bullock, and he's like, I got your girlfriend. And Jason Patrick like steals a boat, and Glenn Plummer's on it with some woman speaking in like Swahili or something.
Probably.
Remember, she doesn't speak English. She's like, ah, la, la.
She's not Allah, Jesus.
That's what she says. She doesn't speak English.
I don't remember what country they're supposed to be in. Turks and Caicos, maybe.
But Glenn Plummer, I swear to God, says, I just bought this boat last week. I always thought it was the greatest cameo you could have.
Speed 2 is better than Speed 1.
Oh, God. I do not agree. Although... You got 2 of the greatest villains, Dennis Hopper in the first one and Willem Dafoe in the second one. Remember when he was putting all those like leeches on himself and shit? What the fuck was that movie? I remember seeing that as a kid in the theater with my dad, and he just hated that movie. And the guy he hated the most was like the Irish first mate or whatever that kept going, 10 knots, 9 knots. Like,
You can just imagine how pissed your dad gets in a theater.
Oh, he still references that line. All right, next person, Gerard Christopher, who plays Randy Starr, the race car driver, best known for his role as Clark Kent on the show Superboy from 1989 to 1992.
Sarah looked up from her. My girlfriend was watching this film with me. Looked up from her phone because she can't stand these movies, and she's like, "Oh, that's Superboy," and then right back to her phone. I'm like, I never even seen an episode.
Neither have I. He has 17 credits. 1984 is in a movie called Welcome to Paradise. 1985, Tomboy. 1986, Dangerously Close. Did some TV after that. Some Silk Stockings, Melrose Place. Still working on and off in TV. However, I found this on the IMDb message boards, and I thought I'd read it to you. Titled, I Met Him, and Very Smug, by user TBirdman1. Way back in the spring of 1988, I drove down to Palm Springs, California with my friend John. After spending 2 days in the desert city, we went to Los Angeles to visit John's sister Valerie, who at the time was dating Gerard Christopher. We met him at her home in Bel Air, and he introduced himself as Johnny Denomi. Or sorry. He introduced himself as Jerry Denomi.
To disguise himself.
I told him that I'd recognized him from the movie Tomboy with Betsy Russell, and he mentioned that it was an okay movie. He seemed somewhat conceited and stuck up, and he was no star at the time, and yet he acted as if he was just too good to be in our company. I've never met up with him since then, and I haven't seen him in any movies or TV roles lately. Oh well, so much for his so-called acting career. Lorenzo in sunny Southern California.
Lorenzo and his friend Gary went to Palm Springs first.
I know. Why did he include... I like that he included that part. But
Had a nice little time.
this story doesn't end.
No.
Reply by Beck12. I met him at a mid-OhioCon comic convention in either the late 90s or early 2000s. Been a while now. He was very nice, but I did get the impression he might have been a product of Hollywood. He walked by me and saw me in the diner and gave me the, quote, double shooters. I've never actually seen anyone do that in real life.
I love giving double shooters. It throws people off so much.
Christie Summers, who plays Saville Ritz. Did you know that? I didn't even know she had a last name.
I thought her name was DeVille for the longest time, and then they started, oh, I'm Saville, and she introduced herself. I did not know what was going on. 20
credits. Her first movie, 1983, Rumblefish, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and starring Matt Dillon. 1984, I wouldn't have guessed that either. He was that one. 1984, Delta Pi. 1984, Hard Bodies. 1984, Savage Streets.
Who was she in Savage?
I do not remember. She's in that movie. 1985, Tomboy. 1985, Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker. 1987, Return to Whore High. 1988,
That's a great name.
Hell Comes to Frogtown with Roddy Piper.
Hell Comes to Frogtown. Is that like in Paris?
Oh, you've never seen Hell Comes to Frogtown?
No.
I wouldn't recommend watching it necessarily, but oh man, if you want to see a weird movie, go watch the trailer for that. Roddy Piper is in some post-apocalyptic world where he's like a rapist, but like the only man that can provide like a seed for women.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Want him to re-impregnate like the entire population because everybody else is like some sort of mutant frog creature. Very weird movie.
I think you could do an entire podcast on WWE stars doing films. I think that that's a holiday special.
Okay, so the other day I was trying to tell my wife about a movie that I saw in the theater opening night. Did you see this with me? The Condemned? That one with Steve Austin?
No way.
Oh, it's fucking great, by the way. Steve Austin and Vinnie Jones, and it's like a ripoff of Battle Royale, but it's like, and The Running Man, and it's like these prisoners are put on this island, and it's a reality show, and like whoever, they're all like death row guys, and like whoever is the last one standing will get free or something, get an official pardon.
Yeah, you never took me to these cool bad movies.
Oh, it was great.
You always took me to like Rollerball, the remake.
Oh God, remember when we saw that? Our friend James, I've never seen him more upset. When he tried to leave the theater when the camera turned upside down, you remember he stood up and said, "Let's go,"
so
and we're
mad.
like, "No, James, come on." we're only 30 minutes in.
Let's make a big time production and use night vision.
Oh my God! By the way, if you're gonna put fucking half hour of your movie in night vision, you got problems. You have problems. Oh,
Night
God.
Vision chase scene was so good.
That was probably the worst movie I've ever seen in the theaters. The only other thing she did was she went on to TV, guest hosted on some TV shows, Charles in Charge, Cheers, and finally, Full House.
Hell yeah.
Don't remember her on that, though. Richard Erdman plays Chester, the owner of the garage. Too many credits to name. In some huge movies, you'd expect it. Every time there's an old guy in these movies, he's some guy that just needs the money. 173 credits.
Yeah.
Started acting all the way in 1944 in a movie called Mr. Skeffington. Then he was in the movie in 1953, Stalag 17.
Good movie.
1970, Tora.
Great movie.
Too many TV to name. Too many TV shows. Pretty much every TV show, and I'm not joking, from the 1950s through the 2000s. He was also on, I think, every episode of Community as the character Leonard. Never seen that show. Did a ton of voiceover work for cartoons, including the movie The Page Master, Pirates of Dark Water, Batman the Animated Series, and much, much, much more.
Every good character actor is on that Batman animated series.
Yeah, and it always seems like these old guys, like Chuck McCann, for example, from those other movies we covered, he did like all those DuckTale voices. They always seem to like, these actors from like the 40s and 50s all seem to go into like cartoon voiceovers.
Because they actually do voices. Like they would change their voice. Like now when you go see an animated feature with a big time Hollywood actor, they're not doing voices.
I know, it's terrible. They just do their regular voice. It's weird.
I know a couple of voice actors, and like the stuff they do, you can't tell, like knowing them and knowing their voice, you can't tell them from one character from one series to this series to that series.
When I became an adult and IMDb was a thing, I could not believe that Billy West did the voice of both Ren and Stimpy. Because when I was a kid, I couldn't have thought that was the same guy.
Billy West, Tom Kenny.
Yeah,
and, then,
and these guys were like prolific. What's his name? Phil Lamar, doing a ton of voices on Futurama and other things. He was on Mad TV. That other guy, Michael Bolton from Office Space, does like a ton of
go look up
too.
Like Matt Mercer, like these people that are doing the contemporary voiceover stuff. You can look at this one, you can look at this voice.
They never seem to put them in movies though, which I always think is weird.
They're like
we'll use the real talent.
It's funny because they're like the most like energetic people you're going to meet too. They're more.
Does a Disney movie really need to have like a famous person do the voice? Like, does it even matter?
Well, I mean, like I think of like Mel Gibson in Pocahontas.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, he was John Smith, and then like you get to Home, which is that guy from the Nerd Show on Channel 2, Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they put him, and it's just his regular voice, and that movie flopped.
It's a weird phenomenon, though. All right, so here we go. Probably one of the most well-known people in this movie is Eric Douglas, who played Ernie Leeds Jr. He was the youngest son of Kirk Douglas and was the half-brother of Michael Douglas, Ernie Leeds Jr.
Okay.
He died in 2006 at the age of 46 from a drug overdose. Here's some trivia about Eric Douglas, though. The unknown Douglas sibling. He was a childhood friend of Jamie Lee Curtis, whom he once tried to kiss while both were sitting in a tree. Young Jamie Lee pushed young Eric out of the tree. He fell to the ground, which resulted in a hernia that had to be operated on. Thought that was a fun anecdote. He made his film debut with his father, Kirk Douglas, in the 1971 Western, A Gunfight. Later, co-starred with his father again in a standout episode of Tales from the Crypt, entitled Yellow, in 1991. Performed on the stand-up comedy stage for many years, with much of his self-deprecating material coming from his status as the, quote, black sheep and least successful of the Douglas dynasty. Eric Douglas himself was no fan of this movie. In 1994, when asked whether the critics were right to pan this movie as they'd done, Douglas answered by bursting into an exaggerated death groan. He only had 14 acting credits. 1984, The Flamingo Kid. 1970. These are the highlights because obviously he was in that Western.
Yeah.
1984, The Flamingo Kid. 1985, Tomboy. 1986, Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. 1987, Student Confidential. 1988, Honor Bound. 1991, Delta Force 3. 1991, Tales from the Crypt. 1993, Alaska Kid. His last credit was in 2007 in some short called The Words Left Unsaid, which was released posthumously. And I have a little bit of a story from the IMDb message boards, titled, I heard a funny story about Eric, with 3 exclamation points. User, The Special 2. I heard a funny story that one time he was at this bookstore opening or something like that doing stand-up comedy, but his act was really lame and everybody kept booing him. He got so sick of it that he eventually started having a fit right on stage and screamed out, "Don't you guys know who I am? I'm Kirk Douglas's son." And then people in the audience started mocking him by going, "No, I'm Kirk Douglas's son."
People are assholes.
And so forth, doing the Spartacus impression. It's a funny story. And then he linked to an article about it.
Oh, I like people with citations to their stories.
He didn't just make it up. It was a real thing. So some trivia about this movie. Couldn't find the budget numbers, which really bugged me. However, for the box office, the film was released on January 25th, 1985 in 409 theaters. It grossed $1.7 million on its opening weekend,
That's awesome for a January opening.
but went on to gross $14.1 million in the U.S. market.
What?
This is a huge, massive success. This was the second most profitable Crown film behind My Tutor. Must have been that Eric Douglas.
It must have been The Amazing Car.
God, I can't wait to get to that. So before we get into the movie, I'm going to read you a review I found on IMDb. 8 out of 10. Author CA_skunk.
California Skunk.
The 19th of August, 2009. I've dated women like Tommy. They're fun for a while. This is a guy movie. Women will be jealous of Russell's red-hot looks and will nitpick the movie's lack of plot and acting talents. Who would bring a Rolls Royce to a gas station to be repaired unless the mechanic looked like Tommy? But for us guys, all Betsy Russell has to do is stand there and breathe. I like the way the women dressed during the 1980s, and the hairstyles are cute as well. The song title is catchy, and whoever stunt doubled for Betsy Russell on the motorcycle knew what they were doing. I saw Tomboy the first time on HBO, so the price was right. But this low-budget movie grossed over $14 million. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
I just thought, I've dated women like Tommy. They're fun for a while. Jesus.
I don't know what that means. Like Tommy, they're really super hot and they like to work on cars.
Who knows? Before we get to this movie, it's trailer time.
She was born a tomboy. But now she's growing up.
You're a mechanic?
She's captivating. Independent. Sexy.
You can't be a tomboy all your life. You should be wearing mystic mauve eyeshadow. It's too much.
She's not like the other girls.
Do you want to go up to my apartment for a month?
She's ready for a man's world. Head on.
Tommy, there's a lot of money in this for you if your car beats his.
No, I'm not gonna clobber Tommy.
You clobber me? She's getting ready for the challenge of her life. Her ambition is about to collide with romance.
Careful, Tomboy. You're gonna like grease wash stuff. You might discover you're a girl after all.
She's got the courage, the talent, and the desire to prove it's not just a man's world anymore. Tomboy.
That trailer, I think, does this movie justice. I really do.
No, it was a perfectly cut trailer. It has... I think everybody has to go watch it because we're going to describe things that you can only see.
I can't wait till we get to that part.
Well, it's only like 5 minutes in.
This movie starts with such a fucking bang. So the movie starts. Crown logo shows up. We know we're in good hands. Then we go to a little league game, and we see a boy standing on the mound. And we cut to the plate, and it's a girl. She's at bat, while inspirational music that's playing below us plays. He pitches it, and she gets a big hit. A man in a military uniform stands up from the stands and starts cheering. She gets an in-the-park home run.
In the park home run. Pitcher's fault.
The man in the uniform runs onto the field. He picks her up and he twirls her around. We fade to a room. We fade to news clippings saying an astronaut returns home safe from space. Race car pictures on the wall. Lots of baseball stuff. Some worn out ballet shoes. An alarm clock goes off. The hand comes down and hits it. A dog jumps on the bed and wakes up Tommy. Great 80s hair is what I wrote down.
Fresh 80s perm.
Okay. Did you notice, by the way, she's been sleeping? She wakes up in this perm. He's like, ready to go.
Oh yeah, she's the whole movie. She's ready to go. It's this big shag top she's got.
She looks like she has the shaggy dog on her head. And famously in Savage Streets, we said that Linda Blair's hair was huge. I think that Betsy Russell has bigger hair in this movie.
It's so big throughout the entire movie, and she's putting hats on and stuff.
She always wears those helmets, and I'm like, where does the hair go? So she wakes up, she walks downstairs, lets the dog out, and this is when I first noticed, does she live in like a log cabin?
Fuck you, get out of my notes, man. Log cabin, question mark?
Okay, I just assumed this movie takes place in LA like every Crown movie, but apparently she lives in like Big Bear or some shit?
She lives in the woods.
Like where the hell does she live? Maybe in like one of the canyons or something.
Maybe like Canyon Country, like that, just outside of LA, kind of like Valencia, where Magic Mountain is.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm not kidding. You need to see this movie. You really do. I won't ruin it now, but our recommendations are both yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ruin it. But but you need to watch this movie to understand some certain visual
I like how you
elements.
always say, I'm not gonna ruin this. Like, this is a full-on spoiler podcast. You're gonna ruin the whole movie.
Maybe people are watching it while we're saying it. I wouldn't suggest it, but if you do, yeah, might as well. And anyway, you know what? Maybe would any of you want us to do a commentary of a movie? Like if we just turn it on and talk through it? Let us know. Tweet at us. # crazy commentary. I don't know.
80s perm.
Tommy gets ready.
Cue music.
Okay, we get the theme song. Yes, you're right. Cue music. I have it written down here. Theme song starts. It's playing below us. I love this theme song.
It's catchy as hell.
It'll play multiple times in the movie, and it is great. So she gets ready, but the credits start rolling. Getting ready just means apparently soaping herself up in the shower.
Soapy butt.
But what she does is like this thing that nobody ever does in the shower, which is like fills up like a loofah full of like soap, and then just kind of like squeeze it?
Yeah, I don't know
like
what this is. Have we had a line of dialogue?
No. She gets dressed and she puts on a Steelers uniform. Like, Steelers fan?
Not LA.
Drives off. It does take place in LA though.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you would have, if you're gonna wear something in LA, you're gonna have Rams or you're gonna have Raiders.
At this time, it's Raiders, right?
Yeah. Or Rams. I mean, there's shitty fans, but
we know. All right, the Rams are coming back to LA, but a lot of people that lived in LA were not Rams fans. They were Raiders fans.
No, but everybody
the
in
Orange
LA,
County people were Rams fans because they played down here.
Everybody in LA is gonna be a Rams fan this season.
Go ram it in. That's my new catchphrase. I'm going to go to Rams games with a big banner that says ram it in. Do you think that'll catch on?
No.
Well, I hope it does. Didn't they have that one song, that Ram Shuffle or whatever it was?
Probably.
I think it's called Ram It, Baby.
Oh, God. I think if they do it to the Mets song, that'd be so good.
Go Rams. So she drives off on her motorcycle from the porch, which I... like, so she parks her motorcycle on the porch of this log cabin and like wheelies it off the stairs. She rides through town. So, okay, she rides maybe 5 seconds and now she is on streets in LA. So she apparently lives
just outside,
relatively close. And when you mean just outside, it must be like, you know, the first house outside of Los Angeles.
Just where the boonies start.
And she's waving through town. Everybody waves back and they go, "Hey, Tommy." She pulls up to some kids playing basketball.
White men basketball.
She rides through the game. So like they're trying to play basketball and she parks her motorcycle right in the key.
She stopped right there. Everybody's like very happy to see her. Like, hey, our fifth is here.
So she gets out, gets off. They start playing a game. She's making layups, taking shots.
Yeah, they're shooting around.
Okay. But then, and this part's in the trailer, so if you're not going to watch this movie, you got to at least watch this. Chris, she gets on her motorcycle, and then what?
And one of the men throw the ball to her. She one hand grabs the ball as she's riding on the motorcycle and throws it back, and it's a swish.
Nothing but net. That might be the best thing I've ever seen in a movie. Except after the swish, it cuts to kids from the game high-fiving.
There was a group high five.
This movie is starting strong. It really never lets up either. So we go to Chester's garage, which is where Tommy works. She's working under a car. And Chester is like yelling something at her about how something can't be fixed and this millionaire boy is going to come and...
The motor mounts can't be fixed ever.
Yeah. And he tells her like, yeah, you're never going to get it done. You have to give that millionaire boy his car back. His name is Ernie Leeds Jr. They just call him Junior. Tommy says the car is ready. And he goes, where did you find the mounts? She says, I made them. And
this gets repeated throughout the movie that making motor mounts is somehow extremely difficult. And she's a genius. I
don't know.
I mean, I've watched some people do it, but I mean, like, it depends on the engine. It depends on a lot of things.
I know. I have no clue how to fix a car. So some guy comes up and pays for gas. Okay. This is when we get the introduction of a character we're going to see a few times, Harold. So he comes up and he pays Tommy for gas, and then he says, "I'll be back in an hour." I'm like, was he going to just drive around town and fill her back up?
He stops by multiple times.
Okay. Saville pulls up and hits his car.
Hits it. He like taps it, trying to get it out of the way. Like he's moving forward and stops, and they're both in convertibles so they can talk to each other.
Yeah,
it's
so Tommy's friend Saville pulls up and just basically rams into the back of Harold's car. So she and Tommy, they're best friends. Why?
She's the pretty one.
I have no idea why.
She's quote unquote the pretty one. I didn't see it.
I don't even know why they're friends. In fact, Saville's a pretty shitty friend, and we'll get into that. So Harold gets out and he looks at his damaged car. He looks a little worried. He comes up though and he says, I guess I can live with the damage. Saville, huh? Like the Cadillac Saville? And she looks at him and she goes,
guess I can live with the damage. Saville, huh? Like the Cadillac Saville?
Better. And more expensive.
He asks her out. Remember that? So he asks Saville out and she goes, are you anybody? He says his name is Harold. He asks her out and she says it wouldn't be a good career move.
Yeah, and they set up this character right away.
As a real...
Isabel, or I had her
Isabel.
Saville, gold digging bitch.
She is quite the gold digger. He asks out Tommy then, because if he can't get one, he'll try the other. And she says maybe later. He then says,
Tommy, what about you?
Sorry, big tournament coming up. Gotta practice. Maybe some other time.
But I gotta date somebody, and soon.
Okay, and then I wrote, okay, this man has a very, very prominent lisp.
Did he? I did not hear it.
He sounds... I think I wrote, is he supposed to be gay? Is that what he meant by I have to date somebody and soon?
Yeah, his mom's getting really worried.
Or else it's going to like... He's like, oh, I got these urges. It better be soon. I know. It was very confusing.
It was a very weird exchange because... Okay, cool. We get to know who Harold is. He really wants to date anybody.
Why Harold's in this movie, I have no idea.
He's in another part. That's it. He's in
two other
parts. That's right.
Why he's in this movie at all, though, I have no idea. He must be like the director's son or something. Yeah. So Saville pays to put her... It's okay, so she says... Oh, Chris has got problems with this.
No. She didn't pay for her gas.
No. Tommy says something like it's $10, right?
And she's like, oh, well, I'm going to do this and this is going to work out and I'm going to pay you back tenfold or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to be an actress or something.
Yeah,
or a dancer at
whatever
this
the
point.
scheme is.
Yeah, she says, put it on her tab. Then
we have investors today. We're getting investors.
She gives Tommy some perfume.
And then Tommy goes, what is perfume?
Like Tommy is such a tomboy. She doesn't even know what perfume is. And then Saville puts on a giant floppy red hat and drives off. And then, did you notice this? Is that Tommy goes over and then pays for her gas.
Yeah, she paid for the gas.
And I'm like, what a great friend.
She can't let like Chester eat it. He's like, this is his retirement.
But then Chester will get paid back.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to find out how. So then Tommy's like welding something, or whenever we cut over, she's either working on a car or welding or something. So she got the big mask on. How her perm fits under that mask, I don't know.
How does it not catch on fire? Yeah.
She needs a hairnet for this job. So she looks up at some picture of Randy Starr.
That's all we get. We get Randy Starr and a slow pan.
Okay, slow pan to where?
Right to his dick. Right there.
I was like, was this intentional?
And it stayed there for a while.
So she looks at this picture. Yeah, you're right. It goes from his face, pans down really slow to the dick, sits there for a good couple seconds, and then we cut back to her face. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if she's thinking about something. Who knows? Then, she is, because then she looks at the perfume and smells it.
I wish I could be a girly girl, but I just got to get underneath this car right now.
So we cut to a dance studio. Saville is trying out for some dance routine. Very 80s song.
Oh, pumped up jazzercise.
Lots of spandex and big hair. This must be the casting for Flashdance 2, because it looks exactly like that movie. Tommy, for some reason, is in the crowd, like in the audition watching this.
Yeah, like cheering her on. Like,
yeah, very out of place, cheering and clapping. And like Saville's doing moves and she's having these reactions like, oh.
Did you write down any of the lyrics to the song that's playing during this? Because I think like I have it written down as like, you got the magic, you got the fire. You need to re-listen to that.
You've got the magic, I've got the fire. You've got the mystery, I got the desire. Curiosity is killing me. I'm curious about your love. Curiosity is tempting me.
And then you notice during that scene, so you have Tommy in the stands, but do you see like the couple in the back just making out?
No, I missed that.
Oh yeah, there's just a couple like completely going at it.
Well, this dance goes on for a long time. I would say this whole, the whole song plays. This is a good 4-minute dance routine for some reason. None of these men have a shirt that's not ripped. One of them, his shirt just has the chest ripped out of it. Like it's almost as if he's wearing a tank top that he just
split down.
But there's still like an inch of cloth over his navel. I was wondering, there's no way you could buy that.
He made it.
No way you can buy a shirt like that.
And I think it was all jump cuts too, as the thing's going on. Like
it's going all over the place.
It's jumping to this. It's jumping to the beat of the music.
I wrote the other guy's shirt. One guy just has a shirt that he's turned into a vest. And then the other guy, it looks like he got in a fight with a lawnmower because his shirt's just randomly cut like by a blade in some places.
But all their faces are very fierce. Like there's no happiness in this dance. It's super serious.
And then it's shown by, I love that part too where they like kind of, the girls like go up to the judges table and like slap their feet on the table.
So I wrote down judges table too, right? And then we find out they're not being judged. These are investors that want to invest in this dance troupe. And they go, oh, okay, yeah, thanks for showing us this.
So they like terrify them because when they put their feet on it, they're like, oh,
scared the crap out of them. Yeah.
So the routine ends and just Tommy starts cheering and clapping, and everybody just stares at her.
Like that was the worst thing they've ever seen. And they're like, why is this person like this?
Cut to the locker room.
Okay, locker room.
Okay.
Why?
Because Chris, you know why. It's 10 minutes into this Crown film, and we haven't had any sort of female nudity yet.
I was like, where's their locker room where they go from a ballet studio and then they have a locker room in the back somewhere?
In like a full high school locker room.
It's huge. It's like gigantic. With lockers, 16 showers.
Okay, so Saville is showering while Tommy's just sitting there talking to her.
Saville's a catty bitch.
She wrote, I wrote down the exact quote. She says to Tommy,
look, men are small. Their brains are small, and their dicks are even smaller.
And Carlos, I happen to know for a fact, all he's got down there, extra pair of socks.
But we cut to Carlos on the other side of this massive locker room, massive co-ed locker room.
Listening.
Where he is hearing this whole speech. So him and the other guys are hooting and hollering about this. He walks off, and there's some 80-yard line that no man in particular says is, "I'd like to catch her later." Nobody says it, but it just is played over the sound.
Whoa. I'd like to catch her later.
So he walks over to her side. Carlos walks over, and she's still talking crap.
My girlfriend Sherry went out with him. She says, forget it. He's like so tiny. You could get laid not even know it.
Then Saville asked for a towel, which this really bugged me. She asked for a towel while she's still covered in shampoo and soap.
Yeah,
If there's one thing I can't stand in a movie or a TV show, it's when somebody gets out of the shower and starts drying themselves off when they still have like soap all over themselves.
Yeah, you're gonna have skin irritation. You're gonna get everything. There's problems with it.
So Saville dries her face off, and she sees it's Carlos standing there.
It was his towel. He ripped his towel off and handed it to her.
And she looks down at him and she goes, "Sherry is a liar." And he goes, "She sure is." And then Saville says, "So, do you want to go up to my apartment for a month or two?" And Carlos says, "Thanks, but I don't think my husband would appreciate it." Tommy is like shocked by this.
The gay man in the 80s.
Saville is bummed he's gay, but she says if anything changes, he'll let her know.
Yeah.
He walks off and Saville shakes her head and says, "What a waste." And then she looks over at Tommy and goes, "Tommy, that's the story of my life." Great scene. So you were complaining why they had that scene. It was great. Couple setups, couple jokes.
No, it's just you could have done it. I don't even know how you could do it else, but the locker room just made no sense for it to be in this area.
It made sense.
Yeah.
Nudity. 10 minutes in, people at Crown knows people are getting a little antsy.
It was the second time you get soapy boobs.
Like I came to this movie. It's about some tomboy, but I haven't seen any boobs yet. I don't know. There we go.
So, but then also in the trailer, they were talking about Tommy was born this way. So, like, again, it was affirmation of forward
this is
thinking.
what you were telling me in the trailer.
Yeah, I was trying to, like, it's a very forward thinking. Like, she didn't choose to be a tomboy. She was born this way. Let's put a gay character in there that is married and normal and just doing things. It's kind of
you think it was
cool.
that progressive message. However, what's so funny about this movie, and I can't wait to get into it, is that it tries so hard to be progressive in terms of like women's liberation and stuff, but it is literally the worst attempt at that I've ever seen in my life. I cannot wait to break down some of these scenes and how fucking terrible this gets. Oh, it's like this movie is such a schizophrenic movie. It's like on one hand you have the female producer that was probably like, oh, we're gonna have a female type empowerment role, and at the other end there must have been some guy going like, no, but these broads,
take your top off.
I see what you're saying, but at the same time, we gotta have broads in the shower. No guy's gonna watch this movie, you know?
It'll never make any money.
If you want it to make $14 million, we gotta get them tops off.
So I think we're, 20 minutes in.
10.
We're only 10 minutes in?
We're 10 minutes in. I always write down in a Crown movie when the first set of boobs comes in, because you gotta know. You gotta know how long it took them before they broke down and just gotta give in.
Because there's still no hint of a plot going on.
There is no plot. This is one of those infamous movies where there's no plot until about 80 minutes in.
Yeah.
Let's just wander around for a while. So we go to a diner. Tommy is playing with this jukebox that is suspiciously close to the bar. Did you notice that? It is like if you stood up in your stool, you were like hitting it. I thought that was a very odd placement.
I didn't notice the placement on it.
Saville's eating, she's like scarfing down a sandwich. And she says something about how that cornball musical would never get off the ground anyway. I didn't know they were investors because I guess she didn't get the part.
No, I think they were investors.
So Tommy, okay, this is where Tommy starts breaking down and saying stuff to her like, you can't wait for somebody else to do something for you. And it's like, she isn't. She just tried out to get a show.
Yeah, but she put these people together and then she's waiting for investors, like, just raise the money yourself or something. I don't know.
At least they got him in the room. I mean, that's... I mean, what else is she supposed to do?
I don't know. Maybe there's other scenes like where they show more of Saville's character that we get to know later, that she's more looking for a paycheck of a boyfriend than actually working.
Maybe. But I do think, though, like, in terms of her work, she does try.
Yeah,
it's not like she's lazy.
No,
she's going out and
something.
doing work every day. Like, she tried really hard in this dance routine. It didn't get picked up. That sucks. But she certainly didn't wait for somebody to hand her something. But Tommy keeps, like, berating her about this. And then Saville says, well, that's fine. I'm changing my whole life. Anyways, I'm going into TV. And then Tommy says, like a good friend, why out of hundreds of girls do you think they would pick you? But then all of a sudden Saville sidetracks this into some conversation about how Tommy fixes this rich guy's car and he owes her one or something.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait, what?
She does such good work for him for so cheap that he owes her. Like, they're buddies. Kind of.
He's paying for the auto mechanic.
I don't think they're really buddies.
I mean, I go to one mechanic with my car. I don't be like, hey, you've been working on my car for a while. Or he doesn't come up to me and goes, Mike, I've been working on your car for a couple of years now. You owe me one.
Yeah.
You what? I paid you.
I remember watching this part and being like, okay, I kind of get this. Like, she does a lot of work for this guy. And he specifically comes to the shop for her.
Yeah, because they're good.
Because she's good. But obviously, Saville thinks there's something deeper.
Anyways, this line of questioning will not go further because some weirdo guys walk into the diner and approach them.
Leather jackets. That's how you know they're evil.
And Tommy apparently knows these guys or has run into them before because she looks up and she goes, oh, we gotta go. Her and Saville try and leave. And some guy, okay, so the guy in the leather jacket goes, well, if it ain't the basketball star. So maybe he got beat by her in a game or something.
I feel like there was another movie that we missed.
I was like, what do you mean, basketball star? Did he see that shot she made from the motorcycle?
Well, if it ain't the basketball star.
So Tommy pushes her way past them, and they follow the girls out. And then one of them goes up to Saville while she's on the back of Tommy's motorcycle and gets like within an inch of her face, and he goes,
What would you say to a little fuck?
Me? I'd say, good night, little fuck.
And then Tommy and Saville ride off on the bike, and these leather guys, they cannot let that slide, so they just start chasing them in this really bizarre car on motorcycle chase where they look like they're about to ram into the motorcycle at any moment.
The fucking ugliest car ever.
This looks like it looks kind of like that truck you used to have. It's got the flames.
Did you notice when they would cut to the inside of the car scene, he just pop in the car into gear, out of gear, into gear, out of gear?
Well, no wonder he says a line later. Okay, so I'll link into that line. They chase after them on this car on motorcycle, and then one of the guys, we keep cutting into the car, and one of the guys keeps talking about how he needs to see some boobs or something. I wrote, I don't think this pickup method's going to work, until Saville says, as soon as I wrote that down, Saville goes,
Wouldn't it just be easier to fuck them?
Well, like the way that they're riding is like extremely dangerous. It kind of looks like the beginning of Terminator 2.
Yeah, it really does, actually.
And it's super long. It's a lot of the movie.
I wrote, chase goes on for a while to a really good song, though. They go into a parking garage because every like cheap movie always has to end in some sort of warehouse or parking garage because they run out of road they're allowed to film on. Eventually, Tommy drives over the entrance to this parking garage with her motorcycle. She drives through the spike strip, and then the car, for some reason, drives over the spike strip, and the guy's tires all pop.
Do you like how there were sparks coming off the tires when they pop? Like a Michael Bay
they
movie?
hit it hard, yeah. the girls turn around, they look at the damage, and they say, "Good night, little fuck," and drive off. Then the guy says they fucked up his engine.
Yeah, okay, so there's a couple things that went on. One, they run over the spikes. Then they slow-mo replay it.
Thank God.
And then, yeah, the good night little fucks. And then he finds out they fucked his car. And how they did that, what? He popped his tires. It was already low to the ground. Maybe those spikes ripped off his oil pan or something.
Or like you said, maybe it was because he kept shifting it in and out of gear. But then, did you catch this? The other guy that was in the car like unzips his pants like he's gonna take a piss, and he's about to go on the car.
Yeah, and he goes, "Not my car, not my car."
I'm like, what the hell is he doing?
By the way, did you like that he had his name on both sides of the car, Frankie?
Oh God, I know. I wrote that down later.
I was like, Dugan's car.
Oh. It is. So we go later in the same spot. Chester is towing these guys' car, and he says, "You guys should go out on some dates instead of smashing your car up." And the guy just goes, "Shut up, old man."
I'd be really fucking pissed if some old guys give me shit like, "Just tow my car, I'm paying you." Like, I know my fucking night is ruined. My car is not drivable, and you're gonna fucking like just fucking add on to it. Let's go.
I think Chester is the grandpa from Joysticks. You boys should help me getting laid. Go to the garage next morning. A fancy older car pulls up. And this is when we first see Ernie Leeds Jr., or just Jr., with, and I wrote, some floozies with their dresses falling off.
Super floozies.
So like they stumble out of this car like they just got out of a bar, which we know in LA is not possible because all the bars close at 2 a.m.
There's after hours.
Well, they must have been in some sort of after hours party because they look like they've been. Their hair is all fucked up and their dresses are falling off. And for some reason, they're coming into the auto mechanic first thing in the morning.
But only the girls are fucked up. The guys aren't.
Well, like, okay, so then we also see Randy Starr is here, and you know they're like they have like their bow ties undone or something. Like, yeah. I don't know, they're at some sort of winter formal. Randy Starr, the guy from the picture, the race car driver, he's at the shop.
The one with the dick?
The one with the dick. The one with the Simba. By the way, okay, totally off topic.
Did you go look up what Simba was?
No, I didn't. I had somebody text me.
It was Swahili for lion?
Yeah. Nobody tweeted us. So.
No, and then I looked up Babar and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, these are all just like different words for animals.
I wish somebody would have tweeted at us with the hashtag Eugene's dick. So Chester, the old guy, introduces Tommy to Randy Starr. And, you know, she knows who Randy Starr is. She knows that dick anywhere from that poster. She's in love. And she says, "I know who you are. You're the best. You're wonderful." And he tells her she's cute. Then Ernie says, he comes over and he says something about how he's making a stock car and Randy's going to drive it. Randy says he hears that Tommy is the best girl mechanic in town.
They emphasize the girl part.
This is when we start the long road of
empowerment,
of non-empowerment that this movie has. So he says girl mechanic, and Chester says she's the best mechanic, period. Girls, boys, and everything in between. She's built her own car and even designed her own engine. Randy, he hits on her a little bit, and then he notices the poster. And then he invites her up to Ernie's house sometime. And he says, "I'll show you mine if you show me yours." And she says, as long as they're talking about cars, because she's all business. He calls her Tomboy and then drives off. He's the only person that calls her Tomboy, by the way, in this movie. Everybody else just calls her Tommy. Tommy's all excited about this, and Chester smiles at her. Scene ends.
No, there was a mention in that whole scene of the motor mounts again. Oh, you got my car. You got my car fixed. And then he goes, "Well, I didn't. Tommy did." "Oh, how'd you do it?" "I just made these motor mounts." "Oh, that's amazing. You're able to do that?" And he's building his own stock car. He obviously has like a
Chris, those motor mounts are tricky as hell.
But okay, so
wait, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and say it.
He has a fleet of mechanics that live with him.
I was going to say this. Why doesn't he just use them to fix his car?
Who the fuck was it work on these old, like...
Could you guys get off the stock car for a minute and work on my old car?
Can you make me some motor mounts real fast? You know, I pay you.
Take it down to that old guy. He doesn't do shit, but the girl who works there is great. I hope Chester pays Tommy well, because, by the way, Chester doesn't do shit. All he does is kind of walk around and go like, Tommy, is that car ready? Good thing I found this girl to just do all the work for me.
That's where my girlfriend looked up and she goes, is that Superboy?
So then we cut to a tryout for a donut shoot commercial. Okay. The casting director is sitting behind this row of monitors trying to light a cigarette with this lighter that just won't go on. And he's like freaking out. And then he says to himself, how many more bimbos will I have to see today?
How many more bimbos do I have to see today?
So then some sort of, I wrote producer guy, but I guess he's like the donut king, walks in.
Yeah.
They look at Saville in the monitor, and the guy turns to the donut king and he goes, how do you like her? And then he says something about how they're letting the girls improvise.
Yeah, they're going to let them do their own scene on how they would sell a donut.
I'm like, no.
All I have written down is Saville has huge jugs of talent. Because this is like the first time we get the whole picture of what's going on.
Okay. First of all, nobody goes to a commercial shoot and they just go, all right, so instead of a tryout, we're just going to film the commercial.
Yeah, I've done a million auditions and they go, okay, we're going to give you this scenario now. They're going to tape it, but it's like I'm in some like boardroom in downtown LA.
Yeah, you're not on
or
set.
Burbank or something. I'm not on set.
Nobody's
and
on
they go,
set.
okay,
It goes through makeup or costumes.
No, act like you just scored a goal. Okay.
Hey, by the way, can you just improvise a little bit on how you'd sell that Gatorade? What? Yeah, we don't really have a script. Can you just come up with that? Go ahead. No, never happened. But the director calls action. We don't know what the hell is going to happen. Apparently, some like strip music comes on.
Yeah, and that's setting up the improvisation.
Yeah. Okay. So Saville dances around and she's in this costume that has like little mini powdered donuts as a bra.
Powdered donut bra.
Like donuts, you know, like those ones you get at the grocery store. Like powdered donuts as a bra. And then she walks up and she winks at the camera and she goes, "Eat it."
And there's all this zoom of her gyration going on.
Yeah, it gets very salacious. And for some reason, Harold, the guy from the gas station, is in the corner shoving donuts down his throat.
Yeah, he somehow, between whatever scene she asked him to be in this and help her out, she had an idea on how to sell donuts, and it's just this guy eating donuts and she's walking around like it's a dreamscape.
Apparently in this world, not only do you improvise your own commercial, but you have to bring your own cast. Like, how the hell did Harold get here? And so he's sitting at a table beside this donut fantasy, which is like this. She's in that costume, and then there's like giant donuts hanging, and there's like clouds and stuff. And Harold's just shoving powdered donuts into his mouth, like just shoving them down his throat. I don't even think he's swallowing them.
No.
Then the producer and the director just start laughing hysterically. And I wrote, did they like it? Because at this point I can't tell. Like, I'm like,
well, they didn't tell her to stop.
So Saville dances for a while. And you're right, zoom in on gyrations, all this. And we find out they love it. And the director turns to the Donut King. So the director walks over to Saville afterwards, calls cut, and he says, you know, this so-and-so, the Donut King, wants to meet you. And he waves at her. Donut King waves at her.
It eats a donut.
He like shoves it down his mouth.
But she was super happy about it.
She goes, Saville says, this is a quote, "My kind of guy." And then Harold looks disappointed.
Like this is where we're getting how deep she'll go for, he has a lot of money because he owns donut shops.
So, well, does he have a lot of money? We'll find out. We go to Chester's. There's those weird guys in the leather are back.
Frankie. It's written on the car.
Okay, Frankie's back. Is his name Frankie or is his car named Frankie?
No, his name is Frankie. He's the captain. Captain Frank.
So he walks over to where his car is on this lift, and he just starts screaming, "Hey, old fart. Hey, the old fart said it's finished. Is it finished or not?" And he's getting really fucking pissed
He's
about
super pissed. He's fucking on fire.
The car lowers from the lift, and Tommy reveals herself. And he goes,
You're a mechanic?
He's livid.
Uncontrollably angry.
A female mechanic? Oh my God. This is 1985. It would have been fine. Never mind. So he calls Chester over and he goes, Chester's like, well, what's wrong, young fella? And he goes, I thought you were supposed to have this great mechanic working here. And he says, Tommy is a fine mechanic, the best I've ever had. And he says, Look,
when I want a piece of ass, I know where to go. I let you work on my car because you're supposed to know what you're doing. Now, what are you trying to pull?
And I wrote, he doesn't know where to look for a piece of ass, though, and we know that.
No, he couldn't even chase down two girls on the back of a motorcycle.
And so does Chester. He knows that as well. The guy grabs Chester by the shirt.
He's like, I'm not going to pay for this.
He like grabs him like assault.
Well, Frankie's a badass. He's in the leather jacket. I told you this.
And he says, now what are you trying to pull? And Chester says, is the car done? Tommy says, it's cherry. Pardon my language?
I don't know what that was about, but car's ready.
I mean, I know what it's referencing, but it's not close enough to...
Was it trying to like use the terminology that somebody in the car industry would use, like car enthusiasts? Oh, that's a cherry-looking Camaro, bro.
Well, I think it was in terms to a virgin. That's why she's probably said, pardon my language, but that's not how it works.
No.
The car's been ridden. It's been driven before, you know. Unless she did some sort of reconstructive surgery. Chester tells him to take it for a trial run, and if he's not satisfied, he'll give him his money back. But somehow Tommy convinces Frankie to let her drive the car.
Yeah, she's like, I'll show you what I've made some changes or something like that, and she shows him what the car can do now.
Must have made some more engine mounts. Okay, but then he agrees and he says, sure, because I will have both hands free. Catch my drift? So they drive off. The theme song plays, this time without lyrics, but I love it. It's playing below us. Okay, so Tommy starts like driving like a maniac.
Reckless, yeah.
Through the streets of LA.
Like with people on the road.
Swerving in and out of cars.
Do you think they shut down the street and those are stunt cars in front of her?
For sure.
You think so? You don't think they
maybe crowd... Well, these streets they're driving on, and I say, quote, streets, are more like kind of where Dolomite was looking around for that fish, you know? It's like at a loading dock that they've loaded with cars. So when she's driving like a maniac, did you notice that Frankie is like, he's like getting upside down in the car?
Yeah,
like
he's super scared.
So he's like he's trying his best to like, whoa, like go around the car. And at one point his feet are like sticking up and his head's in the...
So I think that's like I think it's a Camaro. I don't know what the make of the vehicle was, but do you remember our high school buddy James's Camaro?
Yeah.
With the vinyl seats?
Yeah.
You would fly around that car if you took a turn too fast. Imagine.
Oh yeah, you would slide all over that thing.
There was no seatbelts.
Yeah, no seatbelts. Remember, there was this great time, by the way. That one time James got really mad when he was driving it. I think Chris was in the car
when he punched the horn.
Okay, so James got really mad, and this is when we were in high school, right? So he punched the horn of his car, and it got stuck down. So for the entire ride back to my house, his car horn's going off and people are like getting pissed, like we're at stoplights and shit, and it's just and people are looking over like all pissed, and he's like not looking back.
Probably the most angry mechanic I've ever met.
So they're driving around with this car, and then all of a sudden Tommy like tries to pass some U-Haul truck.
Yeah.
And she's like swerving around it like some asshole. And then she almost hits a bulldozer. They drive back into the station, and Frankie looks like he's gonna barf. Like he gets out of the car and he can barely stand up. That's what I noticed. His car's name was Frankie. And he drives off, and I wrote, did he pay?
I think he like paid before.
Okay.
He's like, I want my money back. So I think he paid before, which you never. Well, I guess sometimes you do, but you don't always have to for a mechanic.
No, I pay when the work's done.
Yeah.
So we go to later. Tommy's working on cars, of course. Saville drives up to the station. Oh, God, I know you got something to say.
Oh, no, she's your car full of donuts.
Boxes, like pink boxes of donuts, like everywhere. Like filling the whole back of the convertible, filling her front seat. Dozens and dozens of boxes of donuts. Then Tommy yells something about how her suspension sucks. And that's when I wrote, Tommy works as a mechanic all day, yet she doesn't have one speck of dirt on her.
Nope.
And she wears like light colored denim, like denim shirt, jeans, not one speck of dirt. I've never seen a mechanic who works on cars all day, giving oil changes, working on suspensions and everything that isn't dirty. So that started to bug me, actually. Her and Chester are the cleanest mechanics on earth.
Yeah, they're always free. They never have to work, really.
By the way, we have covered, I don't know how many movies it's been now, maybe 24, I think this is. And out of those 24, there's like 5 movies where people work at a gas station. It seems to be a running theme in these movies.
I guess it's really cheap to use
It's gotta be.
Because, I mean, like, also in the 80s, there's a bunch of movies based on gas station. Fletch, was it 70s?
I think it's 70s.
They're all like, there's a whole bunch of gas station movies. Gas stations and drive-ins.
Yeah. Not so many car washes like in the van.
No.
That was the only time I saw that. Saville walks into the gas station with like a dozen boxes of donuts in her hand and just walks past Tommy and goes, son of a bitch paid me in donuts.
Poor Saville, never the winner.
So she then walks over and gives Chester all the boxes of donuts and says, this should settle my tab.
Like, who's like, he has to eat all 12 boxes right now? You want to like space them out? Who gets paid in donuts all in one lump sum?
I know. It's like you can't just keep them. They're going to go bad in a day. Nobody wants a day-old donut.
Give me a dozen donuts every 2 weeks.
She better go settle her tab today for everywhere. She goes, pays her credit card company with those. Just shows up to the bank, is like, well, want to settle that debt.
And at this point, like, I'm watching the movie and I'm writing down, like, is this the plot? Are we supposed to, like, help Saville get her big break because she always is getting shit on?
You're in a Crown movie wondering when the plot will arrive, Hughes? Come on now.
Hey, this is my first one I get to sit and write notes on.
It evolves naturally. She walks over to Tommy and says something about how she did a great commercial, but they won't put it on the air. Yeah, no shit. It was one step away from her taking off that donut outfit and showing the goods. Like, it was very salacious. They're never
Powdered
going to air that.
donut pasties would be next.
I wrote, I'm not surprised. The director said she was great, though, and she should have her own TV pilot. And Tommy's like, oh, okay, great. How do you do that? And she goes, well, I just need an investor. And she's like, oh, where are you going to find that? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And I also need $600,000. And then she says something about how maybe you could ask some of your rich customers.
The one rich customer.
Yeah, she says nobody has that type of money except, quote, your old pal Junior. So Saville says, somehow like convinces Tommy that they should go to Junior's house so she can try and... So I guess you're right. At first, this does start out as like it's going to be Saville's big break. Apparently, this is Saville's movie.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot of time. Like, look, everything that gets set up is Saville. Saville in the shower, Saville dancing, Saville donuts.
You're right. Until about 10 minutes from now, when the movie's just going to all of a sudden become a different movie. Saville convinces her by saying men only have one thing's on their mind, and she knows. And then she convinces Tommy to go to Junior's house. Cut to Junior's house, outside this big mansion in the front gate. Saville and Tommy pull up to the gate. She still has all these boxes of donuts in the back, so at least she can bring some party favors. And they go on in.
Yep.
That's it. The gate asks who it is. She says it's Tommy.
Come on in.
Go to a party.
Pool party.
First pool party of the movie. Pool party with a big checkered flag banner on one wall that says Leeds Racing, which is a very, very tacky decoration.
Did you notice like it looked like it was drawn in Sharpie?
It looked terrible.
It looks
Terrible.
They all put it. Everybody has that logo on it. It all looks like it was drawn, colored in Sharpie.
Yeah, it's like the day before shooting. They're like, "Oh shit,
this needs to be red.
we forgot to make a logo for the leads team. Get that intern." At least it wasn't in like Comic Sans or something. So we go inside. Junior's on the phone while some lady is giving him a pedicure.
Yeah.
So she's like working on his feet. And this is when Junior's on the phone. I wrote some quotes. So he's talking on the phone. He goes, "Do you know who my dad is?" Yeah. Just like the real.
Oh.
She's like the real Eric Douglas. If he had done the Spartacus impression at this point. He goes, "Do you know who my dad is? Shut up. Just shut up and listen. I eat people like you for breakfast." And then Tommy and Saville walk in, and he just hangs up and yells at the phone. And then he says, "Ow."
He gets hung up on.
But then he pretends he hangs up.
The conversation's still going. "Oh, yeah, fuck you, buddy."
But then he says, "Ow." And he looks at the woman doing his toes. And I don't know if you caught this, but this was wow. He looks at her and he goes,
"You know what? I have to hang up on you now, you scumbag." Ow! What the hell are you doing, you stupid bitch?
I was like, whoa. She tells him he has to sit still. And then he kind of like gets her out of the room just by snapping his fingers at her. Like, he doesn't even like say anything. He's just like, yeah, get out.
Uglies leave.
Then she stands up and she goes in for a kiss. And he makes her kiss his foot instead.
And she did.
And she does.
Like, how much money
this guy
do you have to get for kissing the unknown Douglas's foot?
You know, he might have complained about this movie, but he looked like he was having a hell of a time making it.
I think this movie, he's not acting. That's just how he was.
I think before every take, Eric Douglas had just a Scarface mountain of cocaine in front of him.
Dude, he looked so wired in the whole movie.
I don't even think his eyes focus on anything. Like every time they cut to a close-up, he's kind of just, he's darting his head around going like, yeah. What?
Pool party.
I don't think that was in the script for him to call her a stupid bitch. I think he made that up. This guy, man. So... Ernie, okay, so Junior tells Tommy he doesn't, okay, so he goes, "Hey, Tommy, come on over, I don't bite." And then she comes over and he starts barking at her.
It's okay, Tommy. I don't bite.
I feel like most of this shit was improvised by him.
It's grade A comedy.
I can quote Rick James, "Cocaine is a hell of a drug." And then he says to her, he goes, "Now, did you bring me a present?" And Tommy goes, "Say hello to Saville." He takes Saville's hand and starts sucking on her fingers.
And that's how you shake hands with a coke fiend.
Excuse me, where... this isn't the first time or the last time he's going to do this. Where have those been? Like, Jesus.
3 inches deep in donuts.
Okay, Junior doesn't go through a scene in this movie without putting some woman's fingers down his throat.
Yeah, but, okay, so he does it, and then she does it immediately back.
Yeah.
And then she's in.
Well, at first, when he puts her fingers in his mouth, it cuts to Saville and Tommy, and they're almost kind of like shocked by this. And I almost think that this wasn't intentional. Like, I think that maybe Eric's
getting girls to suck his
Eric
toes.
Douglas just did this. I think he took her hand and just stuck it in his mouth. And he was like, "This is a character choice. I'm going to do this. Like, this is what my character does." Either that or Eric Douglas spent his whole life putting women's fingers down his mouth. That's his trademark Douglas move.
Cape Fear.
It's such a fucking Cape Fear move, but reversed. It's like instead of sticking his hands in the woman's mouth, he does it the other way around. It's very weird. But then he looks at Saville and he says, "Saville, I have a feeling you give a good manicure."
The best.
She says the best in a very suggestive way. Then he answers the phone again, and then Saville starts blowing on his hand, and then he blows on hers. I wrote, what the fuck are they doing? And eventually Saville gets him to start filing her nails.
Yeah, this is like showing Saville's character like taking charge, empowering herself over this powerful man.
Okay, this is like the last time in the whole movie that Saville will do anything that matters to the plot.
Yes. Her story's done.
You could almost champagne rap on Saville at this point because she is no longer a character that matters. Because every time we're going to reference her in the future, she's just doing something horrible. That's it. Her story ends at this point. Tommy goes out to the garage and looks at these motorcycles all lined up by it, these dirt bikes. And she sees a guy, some mechanic, walk out of a garage door, and she can't help herself. She sneaks in and she sees the Leeds racing stock car. It's Randy's car. She walks in and she looks at the car. And she's like putting her head in there and she's like, I could do better than this. I could do that. Oh, why didn't I think of that? And then Randy stands at the entrance to the garage and he's staring at her while she's looking at
her. Her ass is like completely out.
And he's just looking at her and he says, I like what I see. How about you? She says she likes jet propulsion afterburners or something. He says something about how you're into that shit or something, and then he takes his hand and like wipes it on her face.
Yeah.
It's he like cups her cheek a little bit, but like with the back of his hand. It's a really odd. How many like fingers come close to mouths in this movie is disturbing. It is. It reminds me of Face Off. How everybody's face waterfalling each other.
Peach. I could eat a peach for hours. You know I was in Face Off. Why are you bringing that up?
You were in Face Off?
Yeah.
Whoa, my God. No.
Why do you keep on bringing up these movies?
You were in Face Off? That's one of my favorites.
I thought you knew this. Yeah. Okay. You remember the scene with the choir? In the LA
when Nicolas Cage
Center?
Went in like
as a priest,
yeah, like molest that girl.
That girl being John Travolta's daughter. Well, John Travolta's daughter for the movie.
Yeah.
We were all there for that.
You were in the choir?
I was in the choir.
Oh, that's brilliant!
And that was a non-acting gig. I was actually in the LA City choir. And they just hired us to come sing.
When they called action to Nicolas Cage, just kind of like. Start sniffing around and then
oh my God, he was insane. That guy full of energy.
Oh God, one of the best. You know what's so good about Face Off is that like they already have this big fight in that church, and then for some reason they get on a pair of boats and chase each other in these boats for another 15 minutes. The movie's like 2.5 hours and they had to fit in that 15-minute boat chase. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, that was the first thing filmed for that movie.
No.
The final boat chase was the first thing filmed. And apparently, Nicolas Cage walked off the set of Con Air directly onto the set of Face Off, and that was the first scene he had to film.
Oh, that's perfect.
But it's so crazy to think that he had to go from being in Con Air to Face Off, where he's supposed to be playing John Travolta.
After his accent, he had to carry that accent in Con Air, walk over, do his own accent, and then also do John Travolta.
This is the last scene of the movie, and you have to be playing John Travolta now, and he's playing you. What a bizarre start.
I just like that we're able to do face transplants now, so we can actually do this in real life.
No, that one would not work.
Yeah. They can do a face transplant.
I've heard somebody say it that it's impossible to do because what about blood types?
Well,
unless you're the same blood type.
Yeah, if everything worked out. Or if somebody's like, yeah, it can happen. There is a scenario where you can eventually do this. But I don't know if you can do the whole voice box and like get rid of the scar.
I could eat a peach for hours.
Peach. It's just so good that that's the line.
You know he made that shit up. Randy walks up to Tommy and like kind of face waterfalls her like it's Face Off or something. Nicolas Cage must have seen this movie. Then she asks to see his suspension.
She wants to check the undercarriage.
Yeah, and they start looking at it. And then he goes, Tommy, what's wrong with you? You look like a healthy female. I mean, don't you ever just relax and let it all hang out? And she says, I don't know what you mean, and walks out.
I don't get it because like she's in short shorts and like a revealing like a wife beater shirt, which we get to eventually, and like a little throw on. Like she looks feminine.
She looks feminine. She obviously wears makeup.
Yeah.
She does her hair, but everybody's just like, oh, this broad. Oh,
you like to work on engines instead of have babies.
I can see the producer right now being like, no. Randy, your character, he can't believe that this broad likes cars so much. Like, well, I don't know. She just looks like a normal girl. No, shut up. All right.
Okay. That has me thinking. So we have this whole movie. It's car centric. She's a mechanic. She's actually a very good mechanic.
Yeah.
She has the jet propulsion cars, right? Whatever.
How dare she be a mechanic?
She has the jet propulsion cars. Why isn't she into planes? Her dad was the Air Force. He was an astronaut. What the fuck does cars have to do with planes?
I don't know.
In spacecraft.
And all this stuff about stock cars with jets on them. What the
I don't fucking get this.
I don't know.
Look,
this movie is all over the fucking place.
Take out her military dad that she obviously idolized, which they never say if he died or what happened.
I had that written down later. What has happened to her dad? Will we ever find out?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
No. We'll get to it later and we'll just expand on that conversation. Okay. So anyways, they finally get out of this garage. They get on some bikes and he says something. Come on, Tomboy, let's go for a ride. She says, I prefer to drive myself.
Gets on her own bike.
And he says, I don't recommend it. It's rough terrain out there. They ride off. Montage starts. Riding bikes. Song starts as they ride around these hills. They try and out-wheelie each other for a while. They ride through some water in slow motion.
It's another chase scene that goes on for a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, all right, go to the bathroom, get your popcorn, finish that hand job.
Can you imagine like trying to make out with a girl as you're hearing like Poppy, Huey Lewis in the news singing Tomboy over and over?
So, eventually, Tommy tries to go off some jump, and she falls into the water and wipes out. And Randy stops and just laughs at her.
Well, I love that it was all in slow motion too.
Yeah, it's all in slow motion, which really kind of like, I guess it de-emphasizes the danger in the jump. Like, it looks so non-threatening after that. She gets up, she's all wet. She asks what he's laughing at, and he comes down to help her, and he says, be careful, Tomboy. You get all that grease washed off, and you might discover you're a girl after all.
This girl that doesn't have a drop of grease on her. But you like how she's in the white wife beater with no bra on, and it's completely wet and see-through.
Yeah, but everybody's saying, how dare she not be a woman? So she's got this wet shirt on. She's all pissed that he said that to her. But he goes, here, let me give you a coat. And she like takes her top off in front of him.
Like she didn't care.
Yeah, well, she's like one of the guys, you know?
Well, no, like, so this is where I questioned, is she a virgin?
Oh, I think for sure.
What virgin just like strips in front of some dude that she actually really likes?
I think it's supposed to be like the character of Tommy is like, she doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't even know if she wants to have a boyfriend. She's so independent, she doesn't even know if she wants a man. That's what it's supposed to be. Because there will be multiple parts in this movie. And by the way, Randy is a real piece of shit.
Oh, he's a fucking asshole.
And I can't wait to, like, all of a sudden they do some 180 turn with his character towards the end of this movie and try to redeem everything that he's about to do. This guy's a real fucking asshole. So she takes off her top. He's all into it. But then she puts on the coat and she rides off. And Randy yells, where are you going? And she says, to work on my suspension. And I wrote, is she just going to steal that bike? She just rides off. But Randy comes back to the house. The bike is there with the clothes on it.
Yeah, which means how did she get from that bike, took off the jacket, walked to her car?
Just naked. I guess. Walked into the party naked, got Saville. But the other thing is, why even show that shot of Randy coming back to the house? Because the next thing we cut to is just Tommy's house. We don't even need that. It's fucking useless. So we go to Tommy's house. She's in her bedroom, which is the only place she'll ever be in this house. It's like they only got the rights to film in the next to the front door for one shot. and
in her room.
And outside of it or something. She's in her bedroom. She's staring in this mirror. She picks up the perfume and sprays some on herself. She's slowly becoming a woman, Chris.
She perfume herself to smell nice for Randy and be a girl. Aw.
So we go to the garage. Saville pulls up in one of Junior's cars. And I wrote, guess things went well.
But Saville sucked her way into Junior's life.
She's wearing like a pink turban at this point. Did you notice this? She's wearing like what a Sikh wears.
Yeah, it was weird. Like her character doesn't have any more plot points, but when she's on screen, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, and, like have you ever seen you've played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on Nintendo? Okay. You know when you play that guy with the tiger? That's like what she's wearing on her head, but it's pink. Do you know what I mean? It's got like a jewel in the middle and all this. It's like, what the fuck? Down to India now or some shit? And then, oh yeah, she walks over and Tommy's wearing like a newsy hat. I wrote, all of a sudden, all these hats. Like, what is this?
And we're in the mechanic shop now, right?
Yeah, we're in the mechanic shop and Tommy's got this newsy hat that'll never come back. That barely sitting on top of the poof of a perm.
And I have written down that she's working on like the air intake, air manifold of a engine.
Yeah.
With like a wrench. She has never touched a wrench in her life. You notice she's not doing anything.
No, they never work on anything. I can't wait till to see where they work on a car and they're still not doing anything. Tommy asks Saville if she got her money for her TV pilot yet. Saville says she's working on it. But then she says something about how Junior's having a big bash and he wants Tommy to go because Randy wants her to go. Tommy doesn't believe it for some reason and she's reluctant to go. It's like, what?
Yeah,
what are you talking about? You just spent a whole day with the guy. Although he is a piece of shit.
Yeah, but she teased the shit out of him.
He's a dick. He never said anything nice to her. It was always like, yeah, maybe one day you'll be a real girl. She's the fucking Pinocchio of women or some shit.
She's an ugly duckling and he's trying to turn her into a swan.
So like she's all that syndrome. Like, oh, you know, if only Tommy would just get that denim off and put on a dress.
And lose the glasses.
But she looks at Saville and she goes, what would I wear? Now, the only reason they had this scene at the garage is because they couldn't just cut from party to party because we cut to party. A band is just rocking. People are dancing. We pan up from shoes and stockings to see Tommy, who's dressed like she's a waiter at a steakhouse.
I put, what the fuck is she wearing? A shirt with a big bow.
Okay. She is dressed like a male waiter at like a Ruth Chris. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like she has like a bow tie on.
But it's not a bow tie, it's like part of the shirt, and then she's wearing like an unbuttoned vest.
She's got like the puffy shirt from Seinfeld on and this vest. And she looks insane. So she's supposed to dress like a lady at this point. She just looks even weirder. I didn't know if that was intentional, or if this was like some style in the 80s. Steakhouse wear.
Steakhouse. It just needed the black suspenders and then it would be perfectly 80s.
Steakhouse chic, you know. They walk around. They introduce themselves to the guests. They start mingling. Some old guy runs over and grabs Tommy and like starts... He says, let's dance, and he starts basically assaulting her.
Yeah, she's getting passed around to old men.
He's like grabbing her ass real hard, and rightfully so, she kicks him right in the balls. And I love this part is, so she knees him in the nuts, and he like keels over, and for some reason we stay on him.
Yeah.
And like some waiter bends down to where he is, like on his knees, and serves him a drink while he's down there.
I think he had some lines. I just don't remember what they were.
I think it was just mostly like, oh, what a lady. Is she a girl?
It's like a man.
Junior comes over. He dismisses another girl that he's dancing with to dance with Saville. And then Tommy walks up. Junior is impressed by her look. He says,
Randy sure knows a fine cut of meat when he sees it. He was right.
What a line.
Wow. Tommy looks exactly the same as she always does, is what I wrote. Same hair, same makeup. It's just now she looks like she works at this party and is about to serve drinks. She has not changed at all. except for that puffy shirt. So Junior tries to get Tommy to dance, but she's reluctant, and he goes, hey, it's all right. Randy and I share everything.
Do you notice that while they're dancing, there's like, it's silence? There's no music.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. It just cuts in like the band was playing, and now it's just nothing.
And they're just dancing there. It's like, this is so...
And Eric Douglas looks so fucking coked out at this moment. So Tommy tells Saville it's getting late and she will go. And I wrote, she literally just got here. But I don't blame her.
There's young women and lots of old men.
Yeah, okay, we're going to get to even more of that. But Tommy has walked into this party and literally been assaulted by a 60-year-old man and then told by Junior that she's a fine cut of meat and that he shares everything with Randy.
Including women.
She's right to just be like, I'm out of here.
I wonder does that mean Randy got a little piece of Saville?
I'm sure he did. Maybe that's what he's watching. Can't wait to get to that. So Junior tells someone at the party to keep Saville warm for him. Like, so he looks over at a guy and he goes, keep this warm for me.
Another old man. Hey,
he says, this warm for me. And he takes Tommy to go see Randy. But then for some reason, we stop in this game room. And Junior all of a sudden leaves Tommy and he goes, hey, Steve, how you doing? And then we just follow Eric Douglas as he walks over to some like old guy with pure white hair and a brown mustache, which I thought was very odd. Who the fuck dyes their mustache only? That's an odd choice. Yeah. And he says he stops to like hook this guy up with a hooker.
Yeah, this young girl like that looked like she was into Junior, and she's like, oh, hi, yeah, I'll be with your friend.
Yeah, he goes, okay, so Junior walks up to this old guy, shakes his hand, and then he snaps his finger at some girl, and he goes, I'd like you to meet so-and-so, and then they go off together, and then he looks over at Tommy, and he says, well, she says something to the guy, she goes, I'm a Scorpio. Like the hooker says one line. But then Junior says he's an IRS judge, and he wants to make sure he has a good time tonight.
Yeah.
Then Junior walks up to another old man and a young girl and says, nice to see you to the girl, and then takes her hand and sucks her fingers. And I just wrote this fucking guy, man.
Yeah, I've sucking fingers and house full of crooks. That's all I got.
Then he goes over to Tommy. Yeah, okay, so he goes over to Tommy and he says, that old guy just got out of a Swiss jail for embezzling $500 million. And he says, quote, what a guy. Yeah. And I wrote, this just gets weirder and weirder. Tommy is just standing there awkwardly and then tries to leave.
Yeah, she just wants Randy. She's got a fucking beeline for it.
But then he convinces her to go see Randy. Tommy leaves to go see Randy by herself. People are partying. Well, okay, so we cut back to the party and people just start partying and then they fall over a couch and then for some reason some sort of floor orgy happens.
Well, so the girl that came out, isn't that Saville that came out?
No, not yet. Saville doesn't come out yet.
Okay, so yeah, there's this dog pile thing that happens and then it turned into this orgy thing.
Yeah, they all start like making out on the floor. And I wrote, this is when I noticed that all of the men at this party are very, very old. Tommy walks through the party. I see somebody wearing a Crowd International shirt at the corner of my eye, which I really loved. They threw that in. We cut to some random party people, and a guy is getting... Okay. Okay. So do you remember the scene? We cut to this hallway, and we just see the back of a guy and some girl... And the guy's just getting undressed, and the girl keeps saying things like,
You've got to be kidding. You're not going to stand here and take off your clothes, are you? This is humiliating. I'm not going to stand here and watch this.
But she does.
Yep.
And I wrote, what is this? What am I watching?
I put rape and sadness hallway.
We go back to the party. Saville starts some risque dance for the guests.
Saville is slutting it up.
Then she starts stripping.
She took down her top.
She takes off her dress in the middle of the party.
Yeah, to the camera. Dead center.
Like, she just gets naked in front of all these people. No shame. We cut back to that lady and the guy in the hall. He is now undressed fully, and she has succumbed to his charm. Runtime. Tommy walks down the same hall. Or no, a different hall. Randy and some guys are in a room. You remember this?
Yeah, they're watching a porn.
All you see in this shot is Randy sitting on a couch with like a screen flickering, like a projection screen, and he's got a smile on his face, and you just hear like, And then, did you notice this? So Tommy walks in front of frame, in the camera frame, and you just see her legs, and Randy's like just watching the TV still, or this projection screen, and then all of a sudden, like maybe 10 seconds later, he goes, "Oh, Tommy!" Like, what, you didn't notice her walk 2 feet in front of you? I guess the porn was that captivating.
My girlfriend, she looked up from her phone at this scene, of course, and she goes, according to her, watching porn with other men in the same room is a gay act.
This is a very odd. It's very odd. I'll say that. There are multiple men, no women in this room, watching a porno on a projection screen while a party is going on in the other room. And Tommy says, "What are you doing? What are you watching? That's disgusting."
Porn is disgusting to Tommy, which is very weird for this movie.
Why is he watching it in the middle of a party? What is going on?
All right.
Okay, they do not set this guy up to be a good guy at all.
No.
He has done nothing but be a dick to her, and now he's shown as being some weird like lech. Like, okay, so this guy's a famous race car driver, and he sits in a room watching pornos with other guys at a party. What is he doing? So she says this is disgusting, but Randy then gets up and tries to grab her, but she pushes him away. Tommy goes back to the party, and then that same guy who grabbed her earlier goes, "You want to dance?" And then comes over and goes, oh no. Backs away. Tommy walks into a weight room.
Angry gym time.
And like hits a speed bag. And then Randy walks in and he says, in his real jerk way, "You know, you could do with a few social graces, like, hello, nice to see you, sorry I knocked you down, instead of stomping around like a spoiled child." And I wrote, "You were the one in a room watching a fucking porno with other men." He's mad. While he's saying this, she keeps hitting the speed bag and he's getting all mad about it. And he goes, "Would you stop that? I'm trying to talk to you." And she says, "Buzz off." He says he's never met anyone like her and he doesn't know how to turn her on. And I wrote, "You're not doing much better, Randy." You're really not. He asks if he could get a chance to get close to her. She says, "Sure," and hands him a pair of boxing gloves.
Like ridiculously oversized boxing gloves.
So they have these huge, comically sized boxing gloves on, and she's like goading him into a fight, and she's all like hitting. She's like, "Come on, hit me," and he's like, "I'm not gonna hit you." And she's like, "Come on," and she's bobbing and weaving, and eventually he's like, "Come on, we better stop. Somebody's gonna get hurt."
Yeah, this is boxing foreplay.
And then she punches him right in the gut.
She nailed him, and at this point, I'm like, is Tommy good at every sport she tries?
Of course.
Apparently. $1 million baby.
You think she'll fall off a stool? If this movie had ended with her just falling off a stool and dying. Greatest. If like this movie ended with her at the mechanic shop and the lift just falls on her. And Chester just starts going, "She was the best mechanic I ever knew. Who's going to run the business now?" She punches him in the gut, and Randy says, "I'm warning you." Eventually, he gets mad because she keeps trying to hit him, and he cold cocks her in the face. Knocks her ass out. So she falls down on the ground like she's done. Like she just took that Tyson punch to the jaw, and she's out, man. So he says, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Did you notice this part?
He undresses her.
What's his way of asking if she's okay, Chris?
He's like pulling on her top and opening the buttons.
So she's knocked out at this point, to his knowledge. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to get a look at them goods," and starts unbuttoning her shirt. But she wakes up and like they roll around and they kiss. And apparently Tommy's going to lose her virginity right there on the floor of a weight room in the middle of a party.
She's getting ringworm in all the wrong places.
I mean, yeah, not exactly the most hygienic place. Typical Crown sex scene, by the way. Lots of back.
They slowly undress him first, show the boobs, and then they make love, which the beast with 2 backs, because it's just backs.
Just backs. A lot of back. Then we go to a dating montage.
Dating montage.
Great song, by the way. Randy and Tommy are now dating. They go to some bridge. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, so they go to some bridge, and Randy takes some change out of his pocket, and he hands it to Tommy like she's gonna make a wish. And she closes her eyes and flips the coin in the air, and then while it's in the air, Randy catches it and puts it back in his pocket.
I did not see that part.
Just what the hell? What an odd setup.
What a hard thing to shoot.
This song is horrible, by the way. Horrible. No. You know how they shot it? There was no change. You could tell they were miming it the whole time. So they run around in a park, both in their spandex run suits.
Yeah, they love fitness.
Miniature golf.
He gets so pissed.
She's better than him, and he gets mad about it. Cut to slow motion water slide.
This water slide is like the coolest thing in the world.
I know. I was trying to figure out where this was because I was like, it's not Raging Waters because I've been there, and that's certainly not it.
But you see, like they were on like rucksacks going down it, not inner tubes.
Like they were in some sort of potato sack with water. Like, what is this? And it wasn't a slide that went downhill. It was just like going like side to side. It was really weird.
Well, they had fun.
And we watched them go down the whole slide in slow motion. It takes a while. Then we cut to my favorite part. She sleeps on his lap. So we see like Tommy sleeping in close up on his lap, and he's like tapping her neck, and eventually she wakes up. And for some reason he has a monster mask on.
That mask, such a great gag.
I just wrote, what the fuck? They just have that lying around, and they're like, oh, this will be great. Put this on, kid. This is going to be a great gig. Cut back to pool party.
Back to the movie.
We can't just cut to party. We have to have something in between all these parties. If you've noticed, the last 3 major scenes have just been parties.
I miss the Pac-Man wipe.
Work. So we go to the pool party. A topless woman comes up and serves Junior and some old guy drinks that they didn't order. And this goes on for a while. For a couple minutes, she's like, did you order pina colada? And the guy's like, no. And she's like, here it is anyway. And he's like, this isn't a pina colada. I'm like, how long is this going to go on? Like, just fucking end it.
Going.
So eventually Junior, I think Eric Douglas just kind of got sick of this scene and snapped his fingers at her and just told her to shoo. Then, so this old guy is apparently the investor, Earl.
He is the merchant or the merchandiser. He makes the toys. He's the one that makes the money on the races.
Apparently he's the one who makes the money by making the toys. Okay, so
hey, that's how this works. I talked to some guy before about. No, I have no idea why. This is how they make money in the racing. I thought they win by the purse for winning.
That's what you would think, right? Like no
sponsors. This car is sponsored by GM. No, it's the toy car of the stock car of Randy Starr.
They don't make money off advertisements on the car. It's the Matchbox. No, okay, so this guy Earl said something to Junior about how he worked with his dad even though he didn't trust the son of a bitch. That's his words. He says he's worried about his car and he doesn't think it's a winner. Then the waitress shows up again for no reason.
Yep, that is how this is going to go.
End of scene. It's just the most useless fucking scene.
No, we have to know why this guy's important.
We could have done that in this next scene. Randy is driving around the track, or who we think is Randy driving around the track.
We see the stock car driving around the track.
Okay, we see the stock car driving around the track. They could have had this conversation right here. Earl is there with Junior, so we're just there again. And Junior says, I tell you one thing, that Randy sure knows how to handle a car. I sure know how to sniff out a winner, don't I? And Earl goes, I don't know. But then Randy comes up behind them, and he says, how do you like the car? And they spin around and they're like, what? Who's driving? It's Tommy, of course. Randy introduces all of them, and he tells Tommy about how Earl merchandises toys, and he's the real money behind the racing game because he makes toys and shit.
So weird. It's such a weird way to have this part of the movie as toy-based.
Why didn't you just say he's like, this is Earl, he's from Valvoline, he's going to sponsor the car.
This is an investor. Everybody else is just an investor. There's a nameless investor.
It's like, for some reason, the guy playing Earl showed up and he's like, for my character, I'm thinking maybe I should be like a toy maker or something.
Like, why wouldn't they have... we can't even do the end of the movie yet, but... like, if they took him out and they just made the whole same plot with Junior...
Yeah.
It's the same movie.
You're right. It would just be the same fucking movie. You didn't even need this guy. Earl is impressed. He thinks Tommy is a strange name for a girl, but she doesn't drive like a girl.
Perfect time to actually give her a real name. Nope.
No. Earl says it's too bad Tommy doesn't have a car, or Junior might find himself in hot water. They laugh, but Tommy isn't too pleased. But then she starts laughing with them and says, I have a car. And then Randy says, he means a professional stock car. And Tommy goes, I know damn well what he means. Earl wants to see her car. Junior just says she's some chick who's an amateur and some broad who gets off on race cars.
I mean, this chick, she's an amateur. She's a broad that gets off on race cars.
Always putting her down as much as possible.
Tommy is furious, obviously. Randy backs her up all of a sudden, but he does say basically she's great for a girl.
Yeah.
And then he looks at Tommy and he goes, why are you getting all upset?
Well, you should have just been like, oh, why are you getting mad? Is it that time of the month? Like, it's basically
it was
just
one fucking thing away from it. Tommy, what do you need, a new tampon or some shit? Did you forget your purse?
Your perm fall?
It's like, for fuck's sake. No matter what she does, it's always like, that is great. Best I ever saw for a girl.
Oh, you cured polio? That's good for a girl.
I hear they got some lady doctors out there.
Next thing you know, they're going to want to go to school and shit. They want to vote.
I could see the director just being like, all right, make sure you keep emphasizing she's good, but she's good for a girl. We don't want to upset the men in the audience because this is just some broad. Every guy in the audience knows she can't really drive a race car, and all she really knows how to do is turn on an oven. That's all they're going to believe. It's unbelievable for her to be so good at what she does. This is the worst women's liberation type message I've ever seen in a fucking movie. It's like so embarrassingly bad. Oh, no wonder your girlfriend hated this. So Earl says he wants to see her car against this car. And then Randy gets all mad. He says, well, hold on here. I don't want to clobber her. And that's when we get the line for the trailer. And she says, you clobber me? Ha! Tommy says to name the time and the place. And her and Randy are going to get it on. And I mean race. Because they already fucked on a gym floor. It's 1 week from today, race day. So now, Crown, 80 minutes in, has sprinkled us with one plot point that is going to happen in about 3 scenes.
This is a typical B movie ever, like King of the Mountain for snowboard movie or for the ski movies. Okay, you gotta get down this mountain.
Yeah,
that's the way. This one is you gotta win this car race. It's just
we now have the event. It's just like in Van Nuys Boulevard when we walk around for a fucking hour and 20 minutes, and then they finally have their drag race to find out whose van is faster. So we go to the garage. At least they're racing stock cars in this movie and not shitty vans. So we go to the garage. Chester thought Tommy was going to take some time off or something. She's looking around for tools and getting all pissed. Something's wrong, but Chester says, let's go have a bite and talk. And he says this line, I can't look at another donut. So I guess he's been eating those donuts all
Yeah.
week. I did. I wrote, has this old guy been eating donuts for every meal? Go to that same diner that we went to before. Tommy and Chester talk. Chester somehow pisses her off when he says something about her getting put in her place, and she runs out the door. However, he says, you are going to get put in your place because you're crazy to think that you are going to beat a professional stock car driver in a race, and that they have millions of dollars they put into their cars, and we're just two hillbillies with a garage.
Chester does not believe in her.
And I wrote, yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's not wrong. But she asks if he will help her. Of course he will. We go back to the garage. Chester gives her a present. It's a racing suit with her name on it. And I wrote, how long did he have that?
He was supporting her all the way, the whole time.
Was he just saving this for...
Yeah, he was just saying mean things to her and then like, okay, I got something for
Tommy,
you.
I know you've never wanted a race, but I made this suit for you in this dusty box I've had
She
for
must have
you.
wanted to race. She invented a car with an engine. With her with her own engine.
Later on in the movie, she calls herself a designer,
yeah,
and not a racer. So who knows? So he gives her this outfit, and she's really happy about it. And he walks away, and then we see this really slow zoom on Tommy's face for a while, like a good 5 seconds of her just smiling blankly, like hey. Then they work on the car, and theme song plays during this montage. However, they aren't really doing much of anything. They're like kind of loosely trying to wrench something. Like,
okay, so what they are wrenching in this scene with a wrench is PVC pipe.
Yeah,
which is a fitted pipe that you glue.
Yeah.
There's no nuts or bolts or anything to wrench. It just sticks in there.
There's this part where Chester has like a wrench that's too big for the PVC pipe, and he's like trying to turn it, like he's struggling. By the way, really weird angle where he's like kind of reaching over a seat when there's a clear way to get on this.
Yeah, and at this time we still don't know what the whole car looks like. We only know the interior.
No. Then the other things we see are them just looking at air coming out of an engine. Like, so they're just putting their heads above the air, and like it's blowing their hair, and they're like, look at that, it works. Science is great. And then we cut to a long zoom in of a computer chip.
Yeah.
And her just testing the voltage on it or something. Like,
I don't know what the fuck
going
she's
on?
doing.
Tommy then throws away the poster of Randy off the wall. She picks it up and just tosses it into a can. Go to Tommy's house. She picks up her old baseball cleats and touches them for a while.
Those things are like nasty cleats, man, for kids. You see those spikes on them?
Go to the racetrack. Tommy is driving her, and I wrote, quote, computer rocket car.
So I put space car.
This car is more of a rocket ship than it is a car. And by the way, this is the least aerodynamic car I've ever seen in my life. This car has a giant... So, like, it looks like they put a mohawk on this car, but, like, cut off half of it. So it's like a giant...
Well, it's an air intake, I think, is what it's supposed to be.
Chris, that is the most unaerodynamic thing I've ever seen in my life.
Not aerodynamic.
So it has this huge fucking thing sticking off the roof of the car. A square thing, not curved, or mind you, or anything like this. A square box sticking off the roof of the car that goes to the back. She's just doing laps. That's it. Go to a bar. A bar all of a sudden. We cut to Tommy lip syncing to a country song.
Loving it.
Some guy next to her at the bar is completely passed out. Then Harold from the makes his final appearance in this film.
Did you notice what he was wearing?
The same outfit as before?
Yeah, but you notice the jacket.
Members only?
Yep.
So Harold comes up and he asks if he could buy her a drink. And the bartender comes up and asks Harold what he wants. And he just says, the usual.
Wink.
And the bartender looks at him like, the fuck are you talking about? I've never seen you before. And he's like, no, the usual. Wink, wink. Then the bartender smiles, comes back with some cocktail with like, and I wrote fruity cocktail, but also has a giant celery stalk sticking out of it in a martini glass. And he says $12. Which which in 1985 was a fucking expensive drink. It is like a meal in a cup, though. So he pays for it. But then he invites Tommy to his place, and she doesn't say anything. And Harold says, I didn't think so. And then Tommy says, come on, and takes him off on her bike.
And I wrote, Harold's gonna get laid.
I was like, what? Wait, why? She's never shown interest in him before. Is this supposed to be like her character's like...
It's because he's never been a dick to her? He's never been like, you're just a girl? You're like, no, you're cool. Thanks for helping me out. Have a good day.
So they go to Tommy's cabin. They walk in the door, and for some reason, Saville is inside eating a banana. And then, I know you have this written down, Harold walks inside, and her dog just starts licking his crotch, like...
For a while.
So the dog just shoves his snout into Harold's crotch and just starts licking it. And he's trying to get her off. Saville and Tommy are trying to have a conversation, and Harold just keeps asking questions, and eventually Saville just tells him to get lost, and he leaves.
Yeah, and she goes, Tommy goes, oh, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Harold.
That's a wrap on Harold. We'll never see him again.
No, it's not.
When are we going to see Harold again?
He's in like the next scene.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait, hold on. So he leaves this scene. Saville gives Tommy some pep talk, and I just wrote, what the fuck is going on? Cut to outside. Harold.
Hey, at least they have continuity. Like, Harold didn't take his car out to this log cabin. He rode bitch.
So he's like, wait a second. I'm stranded outside of L.A.
Give me an Uber.
So he just is running along the side of the road, and he like runs in front of this car, and it's a woman, and she looks at him and just pulls down her top, and then we see a shot of Harold, and lightning goes off behind him. And
it was really, that lightning thing was like really weird.
And he just smiles and gets in the car, and I wrote, what the fuck is going on?
I put Corvette, tits, lightning.
Do you think this is like some sort of you remember that movie where Brendan Fraser met that woman who was the devil? Remember that?
Yeah, Bedazzled.
Yeah,
is it Bedazzled or something
like that? Do you think this is like a Bedazzled type situation?
Oh, I hope so.
So then we cut from that to a picture of Tommy's dad.
Yeah,
that she stares at. Fade to her holding some astronaut medal, and then she puts it around her neck, and I wrote, is her dad dead?
It was an astronaut medal? I wrote down it was a lucky Nazi medallion. I couldn't tell what it was.
It had the shuttle on it.
Oh, I didn't see
but
that.
Like, okay, so where is her dad? Is he's obviously gone, right?
He has to be gone, but where's her mom then? Why does she not care about her mom?
I think that's why she's supposed to be a tomboy, is because
she doesn't have a mom.
Yeah, she didn't have a mom. But they never thought to include that.
They never built up this why she is the way she is. She was just born this way. As the trailer says.
So we go to the racetrack. It's the big day. Randy does a lap, and then he gets out and he talks to Junior. He says the turns are too narrow for more than one car to fit through, and Tommy might get hurt. And Junior says, my heart bleeds. Just beat her. Shut up. Is there any woman I can go suck her fingers?
Got any cocaine?
His eyes are just darting around. He's like, yeah, whatever, man. Fuck, I don't care. Race this broad. For some reason, Randy changes his tune, and his character becomes a completely different person at this point. And he says, I think about you and your money sometimes, and I wonder if you'd be as big an asshole if you were poor. And I was like, oh, fuck you, Crown. All of a sudden, this guy has been a dick the whole movie, and now you're going to like try and go, no, but he's really not that bad.
Jerking off in back rooms. Raping unconscious women.
Yeah.
Now he's a good guy.
Now all of a sudden, he's a good guy. Earl shows up with an umbrella with two girls on each arm, one on each arm. Randy comes up to talk to Tommy and asks if there's anything they could say to each other. And Tommy says, quote, it's all been said. And then Randy
that was
says,
such a cliche line, like, don't respond, say fuck you, which she did, like, goodbye little dick, or something. Like, there was no gag. There's nothing. This is like just...
It's all been said. And then he says, okay then, may the best what? She says, car.
Car.
Okay. May the best car win.
Because they're like, we should best man, best woman, best person. They didn't even say person. It was best thing.
Yeah, and I wrote, this is when I wrote again, fuck you, Crown. Don't try and turn this guy into a different character. We just did a laundry list of all the things he's done that is shitty, including try to rape an unconscious woman. Oh, God. So he tells her to be careful. Saville shows up. She's dressed like a pit crew member. She walks up and Randy goes, what are you smiling about? And she says, I think she's going to whip your ass, pretty boy. And I love this as he walks away and he goes, no fucking way, baby. They get in their cars and they get ready for the race. Junior tells Earl that his car will run circles around that tomboy. Earl says it better for his sake. Earl, for some reason, has the starting flag, which I thought was weird.
I like that he has the starting flag and he's on this little box.
Yeah, he's on the starting box and he waves it. The music starts, the theme song, but without the words. So Tommy's behind Randy. We cut inside and we hear all these computer blips and lights going off.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Tommy hits some switch and goes all fast by Randy. Both these cars look like shit.
That stock car that Randy's driving looks like the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Yeah. Like a bad kit car, poorly put together.
Oh, very bad. And at one point they say Daytona, and I'm like, not in this car. Not unless it's like, you know, maybe the day after Daytona.
I mean, compare it to, what, Days of Thunder, which was like 90? Which is a NASCAR movie.
No, the NASCARs look like NASCARs. They never looked like this shit.
No, they did look kind of like those stock cars.
With the fucking big box on the roof of the car?
No, not like her car. Like Randy's
By the way,
car.
I don't think there was ever a time in NASCAR when you're allowed to have a fucking rocket on your
I don't
car.
think so, no.
So, anyways, Junior is standing in the stands. He's stunned by all this. Randy puts on the gas and passes her. Then Tommy puts on some sort of rocket booster and passes Randy. Randy's car breaks down and starts smoking, and he spins out into like a bush. Tommy wins. Randy rolls out of this car. She comes over to ask him if he's okay. He says, that's one fine car she built there, and she's good. She says, thanks, you're kind of cute too. Ba, 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 hitting that line from the beginning.
Now that she won.
Earl says he wants to have Tommy's car driving for him in Daytona. What Daytona? I don't know. And Randy driving it.
Yeah, which was weird. So, like, yeah, the best car one.
Yeah. But come on, sweetie. We know that the man's the one who drives.
Well, there's no women that are allowed to drive in NASCAR at that time.
Yeah, there was no Danica Patrick at that point.
She's done so well so far.
I don't know. I don't watch NASCAR.
You know her name.
I know her name because everybody knows her name. Any other NASCAR driver I probably know the name of, he's probably dead.
Earnhardt Jr.
Earl says he wants to have Tommy driving Tommy's car and Randy driving it. She says, and something like and Junior will make it worth your while.
Yeah, he's going to make Junior pay for it, but then
this fucking toy guy apparently
doesn't have any money.
Everything.
But he has the money, but Junior's going to pay you.
But then she looks at Junior and she says she wants 50% and all the expenses are on Junior's end. And I'm like, whoa. And he says, no way. But then we get a plot point that we've never brought up before. She says his family has been ripping off designers like her for years, and now it's all over.
I'm like, there's a movie.
Literally 30 seconds of movie left, and we're on to this now? Then she also says she gets to name the car, and he's like, oh my God, what's it going to be called? And she says, Tommy.
Yeah.
And he goes, Tommy
car?
A Tommy car.
Like, it's the worst thing ever. Then, like, what was his car called? Oh, Elite's car? It's the same damn thing.
Nobody, well, to my knowledge, because I don't watch NASCAR, nobody goes on the track and goes like, oh, here's the car, Tommy.
No,
they're all says that. It's like, here's the Tide car, you know. It's like, here's a so and so driving this car. And
well,
it's
like
always,
the stock car racing now it's the same car for everybody that they get. So there's no designer. It was designed and put into regulations, and then you can change certain parts.
No, they're not going to allow this rocket booster on the Daytona track.
I wouldn't trust it with a PVC pipe.
So Randy says, okay, so they shake on it and make a deal. And then Randy looks at Tommy and he goes, "What about you, Tommy? Will you be going to Daytona?" And she says, "What do you need me for?" Saville says, like, she walks over to this bike and Saville goes, "Well, are you going to Daytona or not?" And Tommy gets on her bike and she smiles and she goes, "Maybe."
Why was her bike there?
I don't know. Freeze frame, credits. It's a Crown movie. Has to end on a freeze frame.
Oh my God.
Recommendation.
Please watch this movie. Please watch this movie.
See, aren't you happy I showed you this movie?
Yes, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It's a great movie. Tomboy is thoroughly enjoyable. It is a hilarious example of them thinking they're making a movie that's doing well. It is not at all.
Just sucks. Of the 3 movies, I only got one that had like boom mic in it a bunch.
Oh, well, the Crown movies, other than Super Chick,
Chick.
The production values are okay for the most part.
I wanted worse movies, and you just wouldn't give them to me.
Well, Hughes, you will be back for another episode.
We'll see.
You're done?
I'm taking a break.
Well, yes. Finally, Chris Mann will be returning for the next episode. But you can rest assured that Hughes and his movie stories will be back. More stories about seeing Nick Cage fondle a young girl, probably not even in the script. So you hear that sound?
Is it horns?
They've been idling outside, Chris.
Oh, no.
For a while.
Now I know why Manning gets upset when he hears this.
If you've never listened to this podcast before, you're probably fucking lost by now. But if you've never listened to this podcast before, in every episode, we try and go back to the first episode we ever had for this podcast, where we covered 1977's The Van, starring Stuart Goetz and Danny DeVito, about a ginger kid who saves up all his money working at that car wash to buy a yellow, garish van to go around and pick up hookers at the pizza parlor and try and lay the shrewest woman alive. We like to imagine that DeVito and Bobby had some wild, crazy adventures once DeVito got that money. What happened after the van? It's now a few years later. It's 1985. Straight Arrow's been running for a while, Chris. Do you think it ever makes an appearance over at Chester's Garage?
I think DeVito and Bobby frequent that coffee shop that those girls are at.
Do you think when those guys walked in,
this has happened before?
She's like, "Oh no, is it a ginger guy? Is it a ginger guy and a guy who looks like a weasel?"
Oh God.
I think that at one point, DeVito goes, "Bobby, did you see that gas station that opened across the street? Bobby, there's this new mechanic there. I hear she's a lady mechanic." "Oh, you tell me that girls can work on cars now?" "Yeah, Bobby, it's the 80s. Women have rights. We gave them the right to vote, and we also gave them the right to hold a wrench." "Well, there's only one wrench I want her holding, Bobby." "I know your plan, Bobby, and I'm onto it. Here's what we do. We're gonna go and pretend that your van has broken down, and we're gonna bring it to that garage, okay? And I'm gonna hide myself in the back. And you tell her there's something wrong with that waterbed. And when she opens the door, you push her in, I grab her, we go to town. What do you think, Bobby?" Sounds good. Are you done here?
These are just getting more ridiculous.
But you know what happens. As soon as Bobby pushes her in, she's got that wrench in her hand. And uh-oh, the waterbed pops. We're back to square one. DeVito comes riding out of that thing like it's a water slide. And now he's all naked in the front of Chester's. Oh boy, things just never work out for those two. That, or could you see the straight arrow kind of like plowing through that the gates to the party?
I was thinking of the straight arrow plowing onto the racetrack and taking out both cars.
Like, okay, so they're in the middle of this race, and then you hear da-da-da-da-da-da, and then Bobby comes like plowing through. Him and Dugan are in another race. They just plow through them. They plow through the stock car. Tommy is in the car. It explodes. The rocket backfires, and it ends like $1 Million Baby. But it's all Bobby's fault. What do you think?
I like that one better.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Grindbin. Hughes, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Iodine Live on Twitter, and the extra live stream that benefits Orange County Children's Hospital at twitch.tv/obsidian.
And you can find this show at grindhousefilm.com. You can also find us on Twitter at grindpod. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on your iTunes app, where you could be so kind as to subscribe to this show, as well as rate and review it. Getting a lot of more reviews lately, actually, and my offer still stands, by the way. If you rate and review this show and send me a screenshot of your review, I will take your recommendation and put it on the top of the list. And boy, let me tell you, that list has gotten very long, and it's becoming very, very interesting. The next couple movies we are going to cover, friends, wow.
I hope you give like the worst movie to Chris, man, after being gone for so long.
I actually have a big surprise for everybody for next week's movie. We've talked about it multiple times on this show. Man has talked about it multiple times on this show, yet we've never covered it. But he still talks about it like everybody has seen it. So I figured, why not? We're going to fucking blow the doors off this place, blow the lid off it, park that van. We're covering Miami Connection next movie. So in honor of Man coming back, I'm going to play us out on some Dragon Sound. Thanks for joining us.
Bobby, park the van.